permaculturists are particularly good, or hopefully are particularly good at thinking outside the box. And that is a key requisite, as far as I'm concerned, to be forging your way. Because as of right now, we don't really have a clear path to move forward in permaculture design or in any sort of permaculture related career path. And so you really have to be able to think on your feet and sort out some of that for yourself. And you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit to make a go of it.
One thing that I've always been really intrigued by is how can we take the ethics and principles and design process of permaculture and apply it not just to the physical landscape, but to the landscape of business and the landscape of social interactions. Being an urban permaculturalist, I like to say that in order to do urban permaculture, you really have to work mostly with the keystone species of the city, and that's Homo sapiens. So understanding what that looks like and how to do it well, I think, is crucial to any kind of permaculture business, even if you're not in an urban context like I am.
Focused a lot on making sure that the business side of it makes sense, because I think that a lot of young farmers that get into farming or get into permaculture are very, very focused, solely focused sometimes on the passion and the heart and the why of what we're doing, and not enough focused on the how of logistically making it a viable living.
Having a really clear vision and plan in place right from the get-go was hugely important. That was probably the most important thing. Forming the right team was also one of the most important things, just having a group of people who are really committed to the project. I can't speak enough to that.
You've got to find something that makes enough sense so that it's unique and it's valuable.
From the beginning, we have worked on having the utmost integrity and transparency in our business model.
My business has kind of grown around the things that I really like and enjoy. And so I'd say that's been a successful element of it. I haven't gotten burned out. And the things I don't like so much, I find people who do like those aspects of the work, and I work with them and collaborate in that way.
My advice to any budding entrepreneur who really is passionate and wants to make a difference in the world is to not look at business as a way of earning money for yourself.
As an organization, we're sort of seeking out what's the next wave that nobody else has picked up yet? Where can we sort of be brave explorers into the next kind of conservation that needs to happen?
You got to be passionate about it, but there's more to it than passion. Knowledge, being strategic, and I think being around, throwing your ideas around and talking to people who are in businesses already, and that made such a big difference for us. As soon as we started working with mentors, they really, really geared us and directed us in such smarter ways.
When people ask me about success in business, I always come down to two things you've got to have is a well-defined mission statement for your business and a well-defined revenue model. And in your revenue model, if it's well-defined and it's well thought out and it's resilient, there's going to be multiple streams of revenue.
The best advice I would give is start something immediately. If it's just starting with your grandmother's 1,000 square foot backyard or front yard, and then getting that going, produce something, use that, and then use that as a pivot point to accumulate new properties. Because once you have something there that you've done, that's your resume.
It's been challenging financially sometimes to, kind of subsidize some of the heart work through some of the, more nitty-gritty money-making aspects of what I do.
And that's the key, just like with a permaculture design, is feedback loops, right? If you never do anything, you never kickstart the process of getting the feedback you need to do it better. And on the other end of that spectrum, if you try something and it doesn't work out, and you never go back and try it again, then you're short-circuiting the feedback loop. So it's just a matter of learning as you go.
If you want to start up something very idealistic, often it helps if you don't need to live from it from day one. That'll create a type of stress, a type of pressure that will take the fun out of it. So if there's a situation where you can ease out of what you're currently doing, do something on the side and just let that grow organically.
You adjust on the move. You make mistakes so that you can correct them. And if you don't have the courage to do that, great things that could happen for you never will.
I think there are a lot of resources available, and understanding that they're out there and being able to tap into those. And they take a lot of different forms, whether it's older, more experienced professionals who have something to offer, or business services offered up by the Chamber of Commerce. You can get consultation and guidance in starting a small business from professionals who are trained to do this, and that's a really handy tool. So we ended up, teaching ourselves a lot when we might have been able to streamline our process a little more with some of these resources that are available and often free.
Really getting a sense of what my zones of brilliance are. What are the things that I do inherently well and naturally well? What are my perennial skills, the skills I don't have to reach out and really put a lot of energy into to fix or to find or to learn? I can just use them immediately.
Seek out people that have done something similar, and if possible, go work in something that's as similar as possible to the business you want to start, at least for a little bit. Do some background research, both through kind of literature or reading or conversations with people and mentorships, and then also get some physical hands-on experience specifically in something at least similar to the business you want to get into, to see how other people are running businesses and give you an eye to the behind the scenes and what really helps to make things work effectively and efficiently versus what things are going to hold you up and make it difficult for you to succeed.
Anytime you can get good market research on a very focused market, you're probably going to find a business model or 5.
It's been really interesting in terms of marketing to see how we've really identified a few different levels of people that we're trying to target, and we base that around the zone system in permaculture. So Zone 1 is our community right immediately surrounding the grow house. And again, it's mostly a low-income immigrant Latino community. And those folks, they're not online a bunch. They don't really look at flyers. So it's all about word of mouth. It's all about trust and someone recommending something to their friends and family. And so our marketing strategy for Zone 1 is to really find the kind of leaders in that community, the church pastor, the school principal, and have them understand what we're doing and get them excited about it so that they spread it to the people that they know. And then meanwhile, there's Zone 3, which is kind of the general public, Denver at large. And for them, we use a lot of things like Facebook and slick design flyers and press releases and all of those kind of typical marketing strategies. But really understanding the difference between those zones and how to market effectively to each of them has been a really great learning process for us.
Just calling people and telling them what we're doing, and they were excited about it, and they would come out and cover us. And now it's gotten to the point where I don't call them. They're calling me, or they want to come out and see what we're doing.
Link to people that have results. Link to people that have good things that they've achieved and good things that they're doing. Share results from other people's work. Quote the jobs, the projects, the developments out there that are good reference material, and then work with your teams of people that can give you those reference points, and just get the information to people. A lot of people that don't know this information is out there, and you can get access to it. Give people access to that good information, and then explain to them that's what we do. That's how we work.
Look for the strategic alliances, branding alliances, where permaculture can be associated with something that already has a good reputation.
A strong brand is key. So, it's something that I had right away because I started the business entirely by bike, with custom-built trailers and pulling everything on our bikes, pulling a 400-pound BCS rototiller on a bike trailer, hauling 1,000 pounds of product to a farmer's market with a B-train trailer and a second guy pulling another trailer. So our brand was really strong because we were these guys doing it by bike.
We put a lot of time into creating a website that really clearly explains what it is that we do, and that's really attracted the right kinds of people.
A lot of the outreach was to farmers markets and to different groups, anything from permaculture groups to food groups, and bringing people out on the ranch. We do monthly ranch tours where people can bring their families and they get a tour, and we also use that opportunity to connect people with the land and connect people with nature.
Very few companies had such a close connection to their ingredients. We're growing them ourselves. And most people that do that are working on a very, very small scale. They go to farmers market, but we were already operating on a national level. And so to have that connection to the ingredients really gave us an edge, if you will, in terms of transparency and connection to the land.
A happy client is going to come back, basically. So maintaining customers is really, I think, one of the really important things to do, because it's better to have 10 really good customers that keep coming back than 100 customers that come once and never come back.
Being reliable, doing what you say you're going to do, following through, treating people with respect, building good relationships with your suppliers. I think for most people on the outside with clients, you know, what clients probably think, or as a homeowner thinks, I'm buying this from you, so you owe me something. So for myself, having good relationships with the place where we get stone or where we get gravel or where we get soil, you know, we want to help their business succeed as well. And they know that. And when you respect their time, they respect your time, and you work together as a team.
When you make a commitment to your audience, or when you make a commitment to your customers, meet it and exceed it. I think that's what's really, you know, bought us a lot of loyalty and a lot of social capital.
One little hack if you want to get ahead in business is something that's very common sense, but yet I can tell you a lot of people do not do it, and is respond to your email. If somebody sends you an email, especially if you're trying to give them money or use their services, respond to it in a timely manner. Obviously, if you can't answer, give a full answer right away, just say, hey, you know, I got the email. It's amazing the amount of people that don't respond to emails, don't respond to phone calls. It's like, I want to give you money for what you do. The other thing would be do what you say you're going to do if you're a service provider. So, you know, I'm going to have a quote to you by Tuesday. I shouldn't want that quote back on Tuesday. You should already have it to me, so I'm not asking for it. And then follow up. You know, it's amazing how many people would maybe give you a quote for something and then they don't even bother to follow up.
I found out very soon working for big companies that if you're going to do something, you have to under-promise and over-deliver. That's the only way it works.
Be organized, and I will say document, document, document. You know, this might go back to one of the things I would do differently. You're going to put in a permaculture landscape, before and after pictures. Think of it before. Otherwise, you don't take a picture until halfway through. Document what you did. If you don't document what you did, how can you figure out, you know, later you're not going to remember as much as you think you're going to remember, you're not. And so documentation becomes a huge thing, not only for you to be able to remember and reflect and have a feedback process, but also to share that information with other people and to have real grounding in what we're doing. So organization and documentation, they're big.
Negotiations and accounting. And those are the classes, those are the notebooks that, you know, haven't ended up underneath the bed in my parents' house. Those are the notebooks that I have at my desk at my office now. And sort of understanding the way that you interface with people either in a business negotiation or in a negotiation about, you know, even when interfacing with a major donor or with a client who wants to hire a Kiver or something, that there is understanding the sort of the psychology of how you interface with people in order to make the pie the biggest, is one of those skills that I could have taken 3 or 4 years of classes in that.
Basically tracking what is most desired has really been helpful. So record keeping is really key. If you're not doing it, it's really hard to make good decisions, and you're always just working on guesswork. So keeping track of what people really like and providing more of that, and opening up the communications channels to find out what we're not providing that they're interested in is also very helpful.
Yes, of course, you can do things better. One of them would be more realistic about your estimates. You know, if you think it's going to take X amount of money to do something or X amount of time,
double it or triple it. I mean, let's be honest about it.
Keeping capital low has been a really big piece, and that sort of fits in well with the different perspective in that, we aren't tasked with earning enough to keep the business afloat. Instead, we can cover our costs pretty easily and then be a little more selective in the amount and the quality of work that we take on.
I think that if you build an educational concern the right way, your customers should actually be educating each other. And that's what we have in the forum. If you're really a good teacher, your students should begin teaching very quickly after you've taught them. And when they start teaching each other and combining resources, it's really something special. One of the things that always comes up then when you say I wouldn't have done anything different is, well, does that mean you got it perfect the first time around? And the answer is absolutely not. If I had tried to make the Survival Podcast like a professional, high-quality, radio-level program, even to the level that it is today where there's still flaws, it would have never happened. There would be no Survival Podcast if we tried to make things perfect.
I would say the major things was learning how to fail and learning how to fail better.
So finding ways to make our products durable and decrease any sort of maintenance or labor that we need to do on them.
What would really help people take whatever project they're working on or whatever business they want to develop is to be honest about the numbers.
So the business plan, the basic ideas are low capital startup costs, low operation costs, and high profit margins based on the fact that you're selling directly to the consumer.
We've taken our time in kind of getting to know specific people in that neighborhood. We've hosted a lot of listening sessions and visioning sessions. We have members from that neighborhood on our board. More and more we have them on our staff so that it's even hard to tell where the community ends and the nonprofit begins.
Simplify is always a good one for starting up at least. And also sequencing is really important, getting things to happen at the right time and being prepared when there's a lot of work to be done. So that we found has been very helpful. Mobile infrastructure, even in the nursery, and decreasing our potential for loss.
If you're just going to try and do something in permaculture the same way everybody else does, don't bother, because they'll go to people with a longer history and marquee customers and testimonials. But looking and, whether you go on the internet, you talk to people, finding something, a pain point that isn't currently being addressed and figuring out how you can do that in a way that's a little bit different from somebody else, that's really the key.
Yes, you need to have a niche. Yes, those skills need to be specific enough that they can't just be replicated in a day. But I think more important than doing something that absolutely nobody is doing is that you can simply do what somebody else is doing better. You can do something somebody else is doing with more heart, with a different philosophy. So it isn't just about doing something where you can't be competed with. Competition is good because it keeps you hungry, but it has to come from a different place.
You get the message across quick, and you give people an idea, oh, that's something I'd like to learn more about. And that's something that's verified. We're verifying the information for people. This is not some kind of fringe system. This is the center of mainstream that you need to realize it's been there for quite a while, and it's going to be there indefinitely into the future.
I think in the end, out even just in general, besides what I'm doing at the Grow House, in the end it just comes down to knowing your audience. So when I teach, for example, the content that I might teach would be the same from permaculture design course to permaculture design course, but the way I present that content might look very differently if it's in a small group of rural landowners versus a large group of urban dwellers. And the way I talk and my teaching methods and things like that are all going to vary based on the context I'm in, as well as, of course, the way I'm promoting the course and things like that.
Mentors are people around us, people who are a little bit ahead of us, and sometimes people are mentors and they don't even know they are. It could be just reading a book. I'm super big in reading autobiographies just to pick up people's vibes. and what drives them, and just then you find yourself within other people too, and you don't want to be like anybody else, but part of those people resonate, part of those people's processes resonate within you, and it inspires you. It helps you find your way, you know, your light.
So when I go meet with people, I think most people would be surprised to know that I'm actually interviewing them. So it's not as simple as that, you know, they call me and I'm desperate for work and I'm going to give them a bid and I'm going to go over there and do that no matter what, but that that we're looking for the kinds of projects that help our business succeed. So I think not taking on everything, being really clear about what you do.
And one of the strengths of my path is that I try to be really practical and passionate and keep a good balance, where I've had to say no to a few work offers because it wouldn't make sense for me, even though I would love emotionally, spiritually to say yes to some certain kinds of jobs. If it isn't in my business plan, I just can't do it.
I think it's really about the community that's built up around it. Geoff Lawton mentioned yesterday in his speech that if you do good things in your business, that sometimes your customers will actually be more concerned about your success than you are. I think that's a big part of what our success has been.
You know, reading the landscape, well, that means knowing your client, knowing your market, knowing who are you doing this for, and understanding their needs inside and out. What is the kind of cultural language that they speak? What are the buzzwords that they respond to? What are their real needs, even if they're needs that they don't even know they have, but that you've identified from reading between the lines. That's a really important part of it. I think triple bottom line thinking in terms of understanding that there are multiple forms of capital, not just dollars, but that there's social capital and ecological capital and cultural capital. And as permaculturalists, you know, as holistic thinkers, we should be thinking about all of those forms of capital and trying to rebuild those forms that have been destroyed by the last, you know, few hundred years of our economy, as well as maintaining our financial sustainability.
Always thinking about things in terms of, if I'm doing this today, how is that paying off for tomorrow, whether it's paying me, whether that means, you know, money, or whether that means experience, or where is that, you know, how is this, you know, moving not only me, but the projects I'm trying to make happen go forward. So it's looking at things from that holistic perspective, just like we would with the design.
Look around. What needs to be done in the world? What could be done better? You know, what's broken? And is there an overlap with where you're drawn and your passions or your skills are? You know, now apply permaculture principles, and there should be a dream career, a dream job.
I think many of us can reassure our clients, our customers, you know, people who are interested, that if you just take that little bit of a courageous move, once you step into this way of operating, this way of thinking, this sort of involvement, everything gets easier, everything gets more meaningful, and it becomes very entertaining and quite good fun.